In the 1st century BCE, the Roman philosopher and statesman Cicero wrote a treatise entitled On the Republic. Much like Plato's own work, The Republic, Cicero sought to describe the constituents of a great and enduring civilization. Also like Plato, Cicero eventually turned to cosmology, where the paradigms of the eternal realm are offered as archetypes for the material one. In his concluding book, Cicero writes of the eternal nature of the soul. In classical dialogue form, we are introduced to a man named Scipio, a Roman tribune, and grandson to the great Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus, conqueror of Hannibal. The younger Scipio has a dream in which his grandfather appears and gives a sort of guided tour of the cosmos. The grandfather promises that souls who live an upright life, filled with honor and duty to the commonwealth, will be given a passport into the sky, where they will enter a circle of illustrious light known as the Milky Way. Further, Scipio the Younger is taken on a grand tour of the interceding space between the Earth and Milky Way, that is, the 7 heavenly spheres with their musical harmonies and proportions. Additionally, the nature of cyclic time is revealed, so that eternal space and time are shown in their cosmic context. Finally, the grandfather speaks. But if you will look upwards and contemplate this eternal goal and abode, you will no longer give heed to the gossip of the common herd, nor look for your reward in human things. Know, therefore, that you are a god. If indeed a god is that which quickens, feels, remembers, foresees, and in the same manner rules, restrains, and impels the body of which it has charge, as the supreme God rules the universe, and as the eternal God moves a universe that is mortal in part, so an everlasting mind moves your frail body. 4 centuries later, a pagan by the name of Macrobius Ambrosius Theodosius writes a treatise on this dream entitled Commentary on the Dream of Scipio. This work becomes an authoritative discourse on cosmology and theology, and is read throughout the Middle Ages. One fascinating aspect of Macrobius's work is his discussion of the descent and ascent of the soul, which can either sink into or arise from the material realm. In order to do this, the soul makes an astral journey through portals and gates which are identified as constellations. There are roads and boundaries. The celestial escapade begins in the Milky Way, and the soul's genesis into material birth starts where the zodiac and the Milky Way intersect. The dream of Scipio is not an isolated vision. Indeed, Cicero's work is predicated upon the writings of Heraclides of Pontus, who, in his Empedoctimus, writes of a similar vision where the true nature of the heavens and the ultimate fate of the soul is revealed. Curiously, Heraclides asserts that the true division of space by the Olympian gods is astral. The sphere of the fixed stars belongs to Zeus, the sphere between it and the sun to Poseidon, and those below the sun to Pluto. In this context, the familiar division of sky, ocean, and underworld is not on the earth, but is describing a celestial cosmography. Furthermore, Heraclides mentions 3 celestial roads and gates upon which the dead travel. One is near Scorpio, one by Leo, and another by Aquarius. The images of serpent, scorpion, lion, and man form the iconic representation of the Greek Sphinx, which stood most commonly at tombs. Now we see why, for the Sphinx was a symbol of the properly known universe with its astral roads and gates for the dead. Heraclides is not the source of this kind of writing either. As already noted, Plato also writes a treatise entitled The Republic, wherein he details the celestial voyage of the son of Arminius, who was slain in battle and ascended through the heavens. Goes with a great company of departed souls to a mysterious place at which there were 2 openings in the earth, and over against them were 2 other openings in the heaven above. These openings are the seams or junctures on the horizon where the dead are born into and arise out of material existence. Further, Parmenides, the founder of the school of Ilia, whom Peter Kingsley calls the father of philosophy, writes a poem called On Nature, which describes the essential nature of being and appearances. Remarkably, Parmenides opens his work by declaring his authority of the knowledge he bears by describing his ascent through the astral world. Parmenides describes a cosmography of gates and pathways which reach up into the heavens, filled with gigantic doors, and which open and close with keys held by Themis, the bride of Zeus, whom Pindar identifies as one who knows the celestial way. Remarkably, similar themes are found in the intellectual mise-en-scene of the Pythagorean school. From the very birth of Western rationalism and civilization exists a radically different cosmology where the soul took center stage. This cosmology endured throughout the Middle Ages, where Dante's Divine Comedy participates in similar themes and tropes. It is not an intellectually flat earth cosmology, for the minds of Newton and Kepler were as comfortable within this metaphysical universe as Plato and Parmenides. Rather, it was a cosmology predicated upon the microcosm. As the philosopher Jacob Needleman perceives, we have misunderstood the cosmological schemes of the past. What we call geocentrism was never meant to establish the Earth merely as the spatial center of the great universe, but principally to communicate its place as an intersection of primary and secondary cosmic purposes and forces. Needleman continues, "It is geocentrism without the idea of microcosmic man, which modern science rejected. But a purely external geocentrism was never the whole meaning of this idea in the ancient world. It is only we who have lost the idea of the microcosm who see it that way. But taken with the idea of the microcosm, geocentrism reminds us that objective reality contains many kinds of influences that can act upon us, that there is a scale of being to which man is born, would he but search for it as diligently as he pursues the satisfactions of external life." The macrocosm of modern cosmology is rooted in a heliocentric universe. The planets orbit the sun, and our own sun orbits the galactic center. Ironically, the modern microcosm is wholly geocentric. The human soul arises from the earth and dissolves into the earth. In the ancient world, we have almost the exact opposite paradigm. The ancient microcosm was predicated upon the idea of escaping the material realm and being sealed to the imperishable eternal realm. In this sense, the ancient macrocosm was geocentric, but the ancient microcosm was heliocentric, in that a man or woman could join the sun on its way to the realm of fixed stars to gain celestial immortality. Thus declares the pyramid text in the 3rd millennium BCE, "The king travels the air and traverses the earth. Those who are in the firmament open their arms to him. The king stands on the eastern side of the celestial vault. There is brought to him a way of ascent to the sky. O my father the king, raise yourself on your right side, that you may be pure thereby as a god. Go up as do the messengers of Re, for your hand will be taken by the imperishable stars, and you shall not perish." The pyramid texts and the dreams and visions of our Greek philosophers are similar in that they share in the cosmological structure of thought in the oral age. Oral people saw the sky and its cycles as the archetypal source of reality. The stars were the source of light which cast the shadows in the material realm, and Plato's allegory of the cave draws from very ancient thinking. This cosmovision held from prehistory and formed the foundations of the ancient polis and extended into every power center of ancient Greece, including the mystery temples, philosophical schools, oracle centers, healing centers, and even the theater. All of these socio-religious structures were built within a cosmic frame, so that the oracle centers at Baia and Hierapolis, as well as at the Trophonion, as examples, were also used for mystery initiations. For the participants of the oracular cults and mystery initiations, both had to make a symbolic journey through the cosmos. There was an underworld cave in Charonium, where priests would heal the sick because there they had access to the secrets of the cosmic order. Not surprisingly, therefore, does Strabo inform us that mystery initiations also took place there. Meanwhile, it has long been known that Pythagoras and the early Greek schoolmasters all taught in the manner and style of the mysteries, that they had often taught within a cosmic precinct containing a cave or underground chamber, also as a model of the cosmos. In short, if one were going to teach truth at a school, or seek oracular wisdom from the other world, or find healing in the body and mind, or search out ways to become immortal, one had to go to the source of true knowledge and being. This knowledge could only be found in the heavenly order. Even in cultures where a belief in a blessed afterlife is unclear, such as in Babylon, the idea of the eternal realm as the archetypal pattern behind all living things was central. Ancient astrology is a product of this kind of thinking. Ancient religion was formed in those cosmological metaphysical waters. And while Parmenides, Plato, and Cicero have employed this template as a model of the virtuous state, the template itself originated in the ancient temple, the point of organized creation, where endless matter and eternal soul become one. So it is that we find this cosmological paradigm at the root of the Greco-Roman mystery religions. The mysteries at Eleusis and Samothrace, the mysteries of Isis, Cybele, and Mithras, all were formed in the old microcosm, where the soul apparently could escape the material realm via a celestial ascent and astral journey. Not much has survived from these religions, but small pieces emerge like a scattered puzzle, producing enough insight to make educated guesses. We have, for example, the Orphic Gold Plates, or gold tablets, buried with the initiated dead. Well over 40 such tablets have been found across the Mediterranean, placed in graves with the deceased, on their chest, in their hand, in the mouth, over the mouth, or under the head. The earliest of these plates thus far found dates to about 400 BCE and was buried with a woman at Hipponion, a small Greek town in southern Italy. The tablet has 16 lines of text which clearly defines a celestial journey for the dead. It reads, "This is the task of memory when you are about to die. Into the broad halls of Hades there is to the right a spring, and standing next to it a white cypress tree. Arriving down there, the souls of the dead grow cold. Do not go near this spring at all, but in front of it you will find the cold water flowing forth from the lake of memory, and guardians pass above. But they will surely ask you, with their crowded thoughts, for what reason you seek out the darkness of dank Hades. Say, 'I am the child of earth and of starry sky, and I am parched with the thirst, and I am perishing. But give me quickly cold water to drink from the lake of memory.' And above all, they will announce you to the king under the earth. And above all, they will give you to drink from the lake of memory. And what is more, when you have drunk, you will travel a road, a sacred road, which other famous Mysti and Bacchae also tread." While the earliest, the content of this tablet is homologous to the other tablets that have been found. The deceased finds herself standing at the gate of the underworld. There are guardians that bar the way. There is a great white tree and 2 founts of water, the spring of memory and the spring of forgetfulness. Specifically, there is a special sacred road that only the initiated may traverse. Special information must be exchanged with the guardians to allow passage on this road, and the password employed as a token of passage is a pointed declaration that the deceased belongs in the eternal celestial realm. I am the child of earth and of starry sky. Indeed, another tablet reads, "Once human, you have become a god. A kid, you fell into the milk. Take the right-hand road to the sacred meadows and grove of Persephone. Now you died and now you were born, thrice blessed one, on this day. Tell Persephone that the Bacchic one himself has released you. Enter the sacred meadow, for the Mystes is without punishment." The reference of a kid falling into milk is most likely an allusion to the stellar Milky Way where the sacred road leads. Thrice blessed is a reference to the process of initiation, where 3 ordinances must be performed. And in this we must realize that the Orphic tablets are nothing but shorthand, referencing a much greater and complex liturgy and cosmovision whose true extent has been utterly lost. What is certain is that a celestial journey through the properly known cosmos is required for successful passage out of the material realm. One must know the way. And the way is through the heavens, for the imagery begins at the gate of Hades, but intimates the paths of the starry sky and Milky Way. The Orphic alabaster bowl reinforces these themes. This cult piece holds 16 figures, men and women who are nude and who make ritual hand and arm gestures. They circle and face a winged serpent who is twined around an egg-shaped omphalos. In his excellent essay, The Mystery of the Serpent, Lysagang reconstructs the inscription on the outside of the bowl from a surviving Orphic fragment. Hear, thou, who turnest forever the radiant sphere of distant motion that runs round the celestial vortices. Lysagang continues, this is an invocation of the celestial force which moves the outermost sphere encompassing all the other spheres of heaven. This celestial force is designated by the names of Zeus, Dionysus, and Helios. In Orphic Cosmology, there were 7 celestial spheres, each sphere represented by a planet, which in turn operated under the grand cosmic sphere, which was the domain of the gods. This Orphic bowl thus depicts initiates in a round, presumably circling through the gates of initiation, the gates being the celestial spheres or vortices, which are passed through in a cosmic ascent. Lysagang writes, in the course of the mystery rite, the Mysti have been led the upper way. They have attained to the super-celestial region. Like Parmenides hastening away from all things earthly in the chariot of the sun, like the immortal souls in Plato's Phaedrus standing on the outside of heaven, and the revolution of the spheres carries them round, and they behold the things beyond, and like the souls in the inscriptions on the golden medallions of Thurii, which were put into the graves of the Orphic dead, who enter the wreath of heaven, who from mortals become gods, and who call themselves sons of the earth and the starry heavens. The alabaster bowl is similar to another ritual artifact known as the Pietrosa bowl, now lost, but whose engraved depiction has been saved. This bowl also shows 16 figures surrounding a central omphalos, atop which is seated a figure, the Magna Mater, holding a grail or cup. This bowl reveals, however, that each of the 16 figures is a representation of the mystery journey, that is, the sacred, secret, celestial road. Starting with Orpheus, the figures in the round imply an underworld descent, represented by such figures as Demeter, Persephone, and the Lord of the Abyss, followed by a celestial ascent, represented by Dionysus and the twins Castor and Pollux, ending in the summit of heaven, or in the super-celestial region, as on the alabaster bowl, depicted as Apollo with his musical lyre. The Orphic plates and bowls belong to the cosmovision of ancient Mediterranean and Near Eastern religions. We find a similar matrix of ideas in the mystery cult of Mithras. Mithraism was known as the cult of the Roman soldier, and it spread wherever Roman legions had sojourned. In fact, one can determine the extent of Roman imperialism simply by locating the remains of the Mithrae found within the frontier camps of the legions. Mithraism was powerful and popular, and certainly one of the leading contending pagan religions with early Christianity. If you were to tell a 4th century Roman that within a few hundred years Mithraism would be dead and Christianity would be the imperial religion, they would laugh at you and probably execute you for blasphemy. How utterly unpredictable is the course of history. Initiation into a mystery cult such as that of Mithras, writes the well-known Manfred Klaus, enabled one to acquire knowledge of all the secret lore, prayers, and rituals which guaranteed that the initiate's soul would one day find its way to the sphere of the fixed stars. Thus we see contained within the Mithraic shrines images which all correspond to astronomical stations and gates for the initiated to pass on his way to meet the Father God, even Mithras himself. Mithras is a cosmocrator. The rock from which he is born is a representation of the heavens, and the Mithraic caves or shrines in which the initiations took place also represented the heavens. Even the 7 initiatory grades within Mithraism are somehow related to the 7 planets, suggesting a heavenly ascent as the neophyte earned each of the successive and higher degrees. Thus, for example, in the Mithraic mosaics from Ostia, there are representations of 7 gates associated with the 7 planetary spheres, but also with the zodiacal constellations, as well as the 7 grades of Mithraic initiation. This cosmography is only reinforced by the Mithra Liturgy, a controversial Hellenized Egyptian papyrus dated to the 4th century CE, but whose text draws from old traditions. The papyrus belonged to an antiquarian collector and was most likely found in or near a tomb. The text of the Mithra Liturgy is a Greek fragment within the Paris Magical Papyrus, translated by Hans Dieter Betz, and whose context is rooted in magical incantations, but whose subject matter is entirely placed within the frame of Mithraic cosmography. The text gives itself the title, Ritual for Immortalization. In this text, the initiate is given instructions on how to make the celestial ascent through prayers and rites. Yet a celestial ascent it is, as the deceased makes his way to the high celestial realm. Quote, "You will hear nothing, either of human or of another living being, nor in that hour will you see anything of mortal affairs on earth, but rather you will see all immortal things. For you will see the divine constellation on that day and hour, the presiding gods arising into heaven and others setting." End quote. The deceased has arisen in the afterworld, only to see the gods imposing their powers while they rise and set. The gods in the afterlife are therefore the stars, and knowing one's correct relationship to them becomes critical as one journeys with them. Indeed, the initiate himself declares, "I am a star, wandering about with you, and shining forth out of the deep." The divine constellation mentioned in our fragment is the constellation Ursa Major, the celestial bear, and in the Mithra Liturgy the deceased must face 7 terrible figures called Lords of the Pole, who must be addressed with the proper language, much as in the Orphic tablets. "Hail, O warders of the pivot of the celestial sphere, O sacred and brave youths who turn at one command the revolving axis of the vault of heaven." According to our text, after arising through the stars to the celestial north vault and successfully passing the pole lords, suddenly a god descends, immensely great, with a shining face, youthful, golden hair, with a white tunic and a golden crown and trousers, and holding in his right hand a golden shoulder of a young calf. This being is Mithras, whom the deceased must also properly address. "I am dying, having been born from a life-generating birth. I am passing on, released to death, as you have founded, as you have decreed and authored the mystery." Once the correct passphrases are used, Mithras reveals to the deceased a great mystery key to immortal life, though our text does not tell us exactly what this mystery is. The central rite of the Mithras mysteries is thought to be the Tauroctony. The Tauroctony is the most common image surviving from the cult. In each case, the god Mithra is seen atop the celestial bowl, stabbing it above the shoulder blade. In this bronze plaque housed at the Brigadio in Hungary, Mithra is surrounded by the standard Mithraic iconography, including the torchbearers, Kautos and Kautopates. On Mithra's shoulder is a raven. Beneath the bowl are images of a scorpion, serpent, cup, lion, and dog. Mithra's rock birth is also depicted, while the 4 winds and the 7 planets are personified at the corners and at the bottom. All this imagery is astral, and it is my thesis that the Tauroctony scenes of Mithraism depict the Mithraic underworld, a celestial space, where the bowl and scorpion represent the heavenly gates of Taurus and Scorpio, or the 2 constellations of the zodiac on the ecliptic which intersect the Milky Way, and which provide entrance to the celestial river via a planetary ascent. These are the celestial gates that Macrobius has identified as passageways into and out of the Milky Way. It is no surprise, then, to see the torchbearers Kautos and Kautopates, who always accompany Mithras in the Tauroctony scenes, often holding a bull and scorpion. This imagery suggests that they are the wards of the celestial gates at the galactic axis, where souls rise and descend in the cycle and mystery of life and death. In the Tauroctony scene, several other motifs surround Mithras and the cosmic bowl. There is a cup serpent, dog, raven, and lion. Remarkably, all these images have celestial corollaries in the sky, with the constellations Crater, Hydra, Sirius, Corvus, and Leo. Curiously, this region of the sky is also the underworld for the Egyptians, the Duat, where the dead must descend to face a series of trials and judgments which will determine his eternal fate. In the Egyptian scheme, only after receiving the secrets of resurrection in the stellar south can one ascend north to the imperishable stars, where one becomes an Osiris. In the sky, the constellation that represents the northern throne is Ursa Major, the bull's thigh in Egypt, and in Mithraism, it is not coincidental that Mithra stabs the bull in the shoulder blade. As has been pointed out by David Ulansey, the strike is not a killing blow to the heart, but appears to be a cut which will separate the leg from the body, indicative of the leg of the bull that is thrown in the sky. Mithraic iconography highly suggests a cosmic grid. One must journey through the cosmos with his proper passwords, ritual knowledge, and initiations in order to make a successful trek. Several parts of the sky are involved, and if the imagery is homologous to celestial coordinates, then the journey in the afterlife covers a three-dimensional frame, where the underworld appears to be the constellations south of the Milky Way, and the passage into immortalization appears to be at the celestial north pivot, i.e. the celestial north pole. Here is the throne of heaven, around which all the other stars dance. Literally, here is the realm of fixed stars. I have compared three separate genres in myth and cult, and have identified a linking thread. In the dreams and visions written by ancient Greek and Roman philosophers, one must journey through the cosmos to understand its proper orders and motions, which provide a reference metaphysics for how the state should be run. In the case of Parmenides, his celestial journey affords him the authority to teach on the nature of pure forms and illusions. In the case of Plato, Heraclides, and Cicero, there's an underlying promise of eternal life for those who truly understand these cosmic relationships and who can make a successful journey through them. This metaphysics is familiar to the eschatology of the mystery religions. In the Orphic Gold Plates, there are no direct references to a celestial grid. There are, however, specific allusions to a celestial journey through a specified and secret path. The Orphic Bowls, on the other hand, show that the initiates must ascend through the celestial spheres, as in the Alabaster Bowl, or through the grand universe, from underworld to high celestial realm, as in the Pietroasa Bowl. Mithraic iconography is satiated with celestial motifs, and from beginning to end one senses that the Mithraic neophytes' secrets lie in their proper knowledge of the cosmos. In all three cases, celestial ascent is the theme. A dark and dangerous journey on a sacred road that runs through the heavens is the imagery. A properly known cosmos, ordered and organized by the perceived chief harmonic power that runs the entire system, is the metaphysics behind the schema. A cosmology predicated on the microcosm, ensconced within the archetypal powers of the heavenly world, is the idée fixe of ancient thought. Comparative myth studies is often accused of syncretism, combining two or more seemingly separate traditions or motifs into one ideological frame. In truth, anyone studying ancient myth, history, or religion will eventually apply syncretic paradigms amongst the scattered remnants of debris that we have to study. I am not suggesting that the Greek philosophers believed what the Orphics believed or what the Mithraists believed. I am asserting, however, that ancient thought was rooted in a different cosmological metaphysics, and this has consequences for the studies of myth, history, and religion. Unfortunately, much of what occurred within the celestial cultic context in Near Eastern cultures, let alone the Greco-Roman mysteries, remains veiled behind the dust of history. When dealing with the subjects of myth and mysteries, one is bound by the nature of the subject. We have lots of scattered clues, but no ancient treatise upon which to rest a conclusive picture. I have tried to show a somewhat connected thematic of the astral journey of the dead within the mysteries. There is no technical manual that details how ancient peoples envisioned this celestial voyage. Further, there are dense constellations of motifs that are difficult to sort out. Moreover, we do not understand how the Babylonians thought of this voyage as compared to the Egyptians, let alone the later Greeks. Finally, it is almost certain that we will never know how these ancient peoples constructed their cultic universe at the heart of this cosmology. Their ideas of the universe were built into their social, religious rites and systems, and thus were kept oral and never written down. What we can say is that the ancient mind placed the drama of life and death center stage, and while the drama was created by the vast multitudes who made up civilization, the stage itself was the cosmos. The earth, the heavenly spheres, and the realm of fixed stars were all part of an ever-flowing continuum, a scale of being where the microcosmos of being, the human soul, was an integral part of the heavenly fabric.